Hi there, my name is Cathi Barker and I'm from Software Solutions, and you're watching a video that's part of a collection of videos that accompanies my Excel Level 2 functions, charts and more. What I'd like to do now is take you through some of the most common and useful text functions there are in Excel. So I'm going to take you to a sheet called Ampersand in the file Excel 2 that accompanies your courseware. First thing I want to do is I want to look at joining information together. In C2, we can use the ampersand character on our keyboard to join text together. There are functions like concatenate and concat, but it's actually easier just to use the ampersand, and I'm all about the easiest way. So I'm going to click in C2 and press equals, simply click on A2 and then use the ampersand, which is Shift 7. I want to join A2 and a space. Now a space is text, and text always needs to be in double quotes. Then I'm going to go ampersand again and B2. So I've created a formula that basically says equals A2, Sue, and a space, and Jones. And when I press enter, that's exactly what I'll get. So you can join things together in any way, shape or form that you like using the ampersand. If I click on Sue Jones and then double click the thin black cross, of course it works out everybody else. But let's say I want Sue Jones to be in capitals. Double click Sue Jones, click after the equals, and you need a function called upper, so you press U. This brings up all the functions that begin with U. I double click upper and then I just press enter. It immediately puts Sue Jones into uppercase. And if I double click the thin black cross and fill it down, all of my names are now in uppercase. Let's say, for example, I need them in lowercase. Well, I double click Sue Jones, I double click upper because I want to replace it with LO, which is enough to trigger the lower function. So I double click lower. I then press enter and Sue Jones is in lowercase. I then click on Sue Jones and double click the thin black cross to replace all the old functions with the new one. Lastly, if you don't want uppercase or lowercase, there is a third option, which is proper case. Proper case capitalizes the first letter of each word. So if I double click Sue Jones, double click lower, because I want to replace it with PRO, and then, or PROP, and then I can see proper and double click proper. If I then press enter, Sue Jones has a capital S and a capital J, and I'll fill it down. To test the theory, I might type Sue in capitals and Jones in lowercase, and you can see a capital S and a capital J, despite the fact that Sue is in capitals and Jones is in lowercase. So use your ampersand to join things together, and use your upper, lower or proper to control the case. For example, I might say, give me in uppercase equals U, upper, the last name. Give me the last name in uppercase, close bracket, and double quote, comma, space, double quote. So the last name in capitals, then a comma, then a space, which is text, and then give me in proper case, Sue, close bracket. That will give me Jones in uppercase, followed by a comma and a space, followed by Sue in proper case, which means it'll just have a capital S. And there you are there. And then I can fill that down and replace the old functions with the new. Really versatile. Now, often when we massage data and we get it to look the way that we want, we no longer need the original data or the raw data because we've got the manipulated data, which is the way we want it to look. But if I was to select column A and or B and go Control minus to delete it, of course I'm going to get a ref error because there's formulas there that are looking for information in column A and looking for information in column B, and you've just robbed it of that information. So I'll undo. Often once we've got our results calculated and we've used formulas, let me just go to formulas and show formulas, and we've used formulas to get those results, we want to keep the values, that is the answers, but drop the formulas. And so if I turn off show formulas, select column C, maybe right click and copy, and then just right click straight again. And instead of doing this paste, which is the default one, choose the second option, which is to paste the values and get rid of the formulas. So I'm going to go values. If I then show my formulas again on the formulas tab in the ribbon, you'll see the formulas no longer reside there, only the values do, which means that if I turn off my show values, I can get rid of control minus, I can get rid of columns A and B because there's no longer formulas there, just values there. So that's a really important paste option. There's a few paste options actually. If I went to select this, copy it, other ones that are quite popular, if I right click, besides paste and paste values, there's options such as, let's go to paste special. There's options such as paste a linked picture. If I do that, then this is actually now a picture of that first lot, which I can resize. And if anything happens to this, testing 1, 2, 3, because they're linked, that carries through to the linked picture of that. Fun. And then undo, undo. Let me delete that. Another option that's sometimes useful is if I select this information again, right click and copy it, maybe right click over here and transpose this option here. It actually makes them column headings instead of row headings. And again, if you had this information here as columns and you needed them as rows, you could copy them, go here, paste, transpose, turns them back into rows. So explore the paste options. There's quite a few of them and they are quite powerful. So I'll Control Z to undo and undo. And to get rid of this wiggle, I'll just press escape. All right. Now the other thing I need to share with you is there are certain functions that pull out parts of the text. So for example, if I just want the first initial of their last name, then I'll just say equals the left of that cell, comma, and how many characters. I just need the left first character. Close bracket, that's a J. So that's the initial of their last name. So there's a function called left. If I delete that, there's also a function called mid, which means I might want to grab something out of the middle. Equals mid. Have a look at that name, comma, starting at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th character. Just grab 3 characters. And so starting at the 8th character, it'll grab 3 characters and it'll give me Sue. So there's a function called mid, there's a function called left, there's even a function called right, which is if you want to grab so many characters from the right, equals right. Grab the 3 characters from the right, which is again Sue. If you don't know how many characters are in a name, there's a function called len, which gives you the length of a string. So that tells me there's 10 characters in that name. And sorts of functions like that. You can even find where a certain character is. So let's say we want to pull out the person's first name out of each one of these names, and their first name varies in length. Some of them are 3, 4, 5 characters long. They are at different places, like Calgary's a long surname. So it's knowing how to pull out that first name. Here's an example. Equals, give me the right of that, comma. How many characters from the right? Oh, well, I need 3 for that one. I need 4 for that one. I need 5 for that one. What I'll work out is I'll work out the length. Len. I'll work out the length of that. So that'll come back and tell me there's 10 characters in there. Then I'll find, minus, find the text, comma. No, space. Find the space within that. So that'll find the space within Sue Jones, and it'll come back with JONES 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It'll come back and say that the space is in the 7th position. So if the length of that name is 10 characters and the space is in the 7th character, then 10 minus 7 is 3. And that's how many characters I need pulled from the right hand side. Close bracket, enter. That'll give me Sue, that'll give me Carl, that'll give me Carol, that'll give me Brady, and so on. So it's a matter of mixing these functions together, formulas, show formulas, to achieve what you want to achieve. Okay, the opposite of joining stuff together is splitting stuff apart. We don't always get things broken into columns the way that we need. Let me turn off the show formulas. I may need to split these full names here into 2 separate columns, and maybe that's an easier way of getting the first name than writing a formula like that. I'm just going to select this list of names, and if I go to data, there's actually a button fit for purpose called text to columns. The text to columns button, when I rest on it, actually says that it splits a single column of text into multiple columns. For example, you can separate full names into first name and last name. Brilliant. So I'm going to choose this button. Now, nowadays, most data is delimited. It's a character that separates the first name from the last name. Not all of them are the same width. So I'm going to choose delimited and next. At this point, it says what character delimits the first name from the last name or the last name from the first name. Well, it's not a tab, I can tell you that, and I can keep an eye on this preview here. It's a comma that separates the last name from the first name, so I tick comma. Suddenly I see a line appear that's separating the first name and the last name. But it's not only a comma, it's also a space. So let's choose space as well. And so a comma and a space is what separates the first name from the last name. So I go next to that. Then we decide our destination. I'll drag over what it suggests and decide by clicking on where I want to put it. So I'll click on A10. When I click finish, it literally has separated the last name and the first name. And that might be an easy approach than trying to use left, right, mid. Depends on what the best tool is at the time. So that's a button on the data tab called text to columns where you can split stuff apart. And then remember, you can use your ampersand, which looks like this, whenever you want to join stuff together. You can use the function concatenate and concat, but that to me is overkill. I would just use the ampersand if it was me. Do enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video where we look at some of the really useful date and time functions that you have in Excel.